When you're first getting started, you have to double your effort in the referral part of hiring contractors because one, your construction knowledge is the worst it's going to ever be because you're just getting started. And two, because you're going to be so eager and hungry, like I said, to get your first deal, the likelihood of you hiring someone because they're cheap is going to be higher. And sometimes the price of that contractor is going to make or break your deal, right? And if your referral process doesn't check out, you have to make sure that you're not making decisions based on emotion or a gut feel or, oh, I talked to this person. They seem like they know what they're doing. Welcome to the Ryan Rice Show, where we talk about what we learned yesterday that we can apply today so that we can be better tomorrow. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. I have flipped more than 30 houses in the last few years, and these were houses that were not all easy construction. I would say my average rehab might be north of $100,000. Lots of full guts, lots of all new mechanicals, lots of additions, etc. And I've learned a lot of good and hard lessons regarding contractors. I've used a lot of them, as you can imagine, if I've done that type of construction. And I want to share all of the lessons that I have learned with you so that you don't make the same mistakes I have with some contractors. Who am I? My name is Ryan Rice. I'm a full-time real estate investor. I'm in my fourth year investing full-time, and I share this stuff so that you guys can have some learnings without the scars I've had and with the hopes that it makes you some more money in real estate. So let's get into these, and these are going to be in no particular order. Just a bunch of learnings that I have kind of compiled together and I put together for you guys. So the first lesson, the ability for a contractor to manage money is a skill that you find in the best ones. And it might seem kind of like, well, duh. But many contractors are bad money managers. And there's not always a correlation between them being a bad person and a bad money manager. The worst contractors are bad people and bad money managers, but there are good people who are bad money managers, and you still have to give them significant time and attention to do what it is that you can to prevent them from poorly managing your money. And so here are a couple things I would suggest that you do in order to prevent this from happening. Prevent a contractor from poorly managing your money, even if they have good intentions. The first thing, do what you can to just minimize the amount of money that you're giving a contractor up front. And so I want to kind of give a scenario, like think about a natural progression of a general contractor and how this might go. If I were starting a general contracting business, at first, because I was new, I would have no reputation. I would have to do a lot of good work, and then it's likely I would get paid. In the beginning, if I didn't have a bunch of reputation, the probability of me getting someone's money before I do work is probably low, right? I don't have a reputation yet. And I know that means a few people would probably stiff me. I would probably do some work for people. They would stiff me and I would have some lessons to learn and I would move on and I would learn from those lessons. But I would expect it to happen up front and I would move on and I would focus on making more money so that it doesn't matter. But as time goes on, I'm going to have dozens and dozens of clients who I've done a good job for. And when I get to, like, I'll make up a random number, when I get to 50 or 100 people that I've done work for, and those 50 to 100 people tell others that I've done what I say I'm going to do, then maybe I can start charging up front, right? Because I have plenty of people who can validate that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And the probability that I do something stupid with their money is going to be lower because there's going to be so many people that have evidence that I do what I say I'm going to do. So as a business owner, again, this is all if I'm a GC, minimizing my cash outlay will be important for capital management. And that's what I would work towards, right? I know that I could run my business better if I didn't have to front a bunch of material. And so if I'm going to run a GC business, my long-term goal is going to be to collect deposits because it's just going to be better for the cash flow of my business. But I know in the beginning, I wouldn't be able to do that. But eventually there's going to be so many people who have seen that I do what it is that I say I'm going to do, that demand for my business is going to increase. And then I'll start to gain leverage. And when I can start to gain leverage, I can charge deposits up front, not float capital cost, And I'm not really going to care about the people who don't want to pay deposits because I need them a lot less than they need me, which is very different from when I first started. And everyone who pays me a deposit is going to tell other people again that I did what I say I'm going to do. And then think about it. The biggest general contractors that we know in the country, like let's say we take the top 10 GCs in the country, and when I say top 10 in terms of volume, they're probably not doing a lot of big jobs. Number one, they're probably not doing a lot of big jobs without collecting a deposit, right? They're doing the biggest jobs in the country, and it's likely that they're not all fronting materials for all those jobs. And maybe I know nothing, and that's not true. But my guess is that the biggest GCs in the country are collecting deposits. When I was at Target, for example, I managed contractors who came in and did multi-million dollar remodels to our Target stores. And I'm going to venture to guess that Target paid them a deposit so that they could, go do what they need to do. But here nor there. I've wanted to go through that because if that's the natural progression of a contractor, then you need to think about where the contractor is in their journey as a business owner. Because you need to correlate the amount of effort that you put in to vet that contractor based on where they are in their journey, right? Based on your confidence in that they're going to do what it is that they say they're going to do. And one way that you can do this is just by talking to all their previous clients. And the bigger the job, the more of those previous clients that you're going to want to talk to. And you'll know the earlier on that they are in that progression of their business life cycle or their journey as a general contractor and business owner, it's likely that they're going to be cheaper, right? So if they're starting, they're probably going to charge cheaper prices because in order to get business, they have to. And as a flipper, cheaper is great, right? But finding the one who manages their money well when they're in the beginning and they're very well priced is going to require sifting through a lot of contractors, and you're going to have to talk to a lot of contractors who, it could be likely that 8 out of 10 of those people don't fit the category of being a good money manager and being well priced. So I share all of that because I think as a flipper, price is one of the common things or the common topics that come up that's important as a general contractor, right? When we hire people, we make our money by buying low, having good quality contracting work at a very good price so that we can make money on our flips. And I think it's really important to kind of understand that a lot of just the importance of the skill of money management in a contractor is vital. And it's not always bad if a contractor is asking for money up front, but it's in direct correlation to the evidence that they have behind them to support them charging a deposit. So those are just kind of the things to weigh. The second lesson, when a contractor shows you who they are, believe them. And here's what I mean by that. As I was thinking about all the things I've learned about contractors, the common denominator between all the contractors that I still work with who seem to continue to do a nice job is that they always do what they say they'll do, like almost 100% of the time. And it could be something super small, like, hey, I'll call you or I'll text you tomorrow, or something as large as, hey, this job is going to cost $50,000 or this job is going to cost $100,000. And of all the best contractors I've worked with, if even a slight deviation from this occurs, let's say, for example, like one of them told me they're going to call me or they're going to text me later, and then they get busy and then they don't, because that's normal and life happens. The next time I talk with them, they always address it. The good ones always address it, right? They're overly apologetic because they care about their reputation. They care about you knowing that they're going to do exactly what it is that they say they'll do every time. And it comes across to me as intuitive, like it's intuitive for them to do that. It's not like they're putting in extra effort to do that. They think that's how life should be. They do it without intentional effort. Their expectation of themselves is to do what they say they're going to do. And if their actions are out of alignment with something that they value, which is doing what they say they'll do, then they're going to immediately correct it and they're going to communicate their misalignment. And I think that's been kind of an important realization. The worst contractors I've worked with have showed me over and over and over that they won't do what they say they will, even if it's something as small as, hey, I'll send you a text later. And I extended a leash for too long. And so now I have learned that gruesome lesson. And now that leash is short, and I just don't make it emotional, right? I think I used to make it emotional and, about the contractor, or is it about me? But, at the end of the day, if they don't do what they say they're going to do, and they prove to me that that is a trait that seems to happen consistently, even if it's small, and especially if they don't show any remorse when they deviate, even if that deviation again is kind of small, then I know their expectation of themselves is not in alignment with the values that I have. And that's typically a leash that I keep very short. And if you catch a contractor in some sort of substantial lie, right, a substantial mistake, and it is the very opposite of them not doing what they say they're going to do, no matter how charismatic they are, no matter how convincing they are to give them another try, my experience has been that at that time they've shown you who they are, and no matter how painful it might be, it's time to move on. The third learning: if a contractor has a social media presence and is regularly interacting in a community, let's say a Facebook group, then their probability of being a reliable contractor increases because they have a reputation to manage. And if they put themselves out there, they must do what they say they're going to do. And the contracting business is unique in that in all of the best contractors I've talked to, they always tell me, yeah, 100% of my business is referral based at this point. And that's the nature of that business. Now, one of the best contractors I've worked with, and I still work with to this day, and I've actually partnered with him on jobs, has zero social media presence. So it's not a binary, right? But if I take the dozens of contractors that I have worked with, there simply seems to be more of a commonality of the good ones having a social media presence and actively engaging in the community. Because if they're actively engaging and they do have some sort of brand, they have to uphold that brand, which means they're going to need to maintain the reputation. And so the learning for me here is it's not black or white, but noticing that a contractor has an online presence might at least be an indication that downside is going to be minimized. The downside of that contractor being someone who is a bad person is going to be minimized. The fourth learning: no matter how good a contractor is, the quality of work of that contractor is going to be in direct correlation to either your physical presence or someone on your team's physical presence on the job, or their physical consistent presence on the job. Because think about it. If you started a GC business and you knew and committed that over the next 2 decades, you're going to be one of the best that ever existed, or let's just, let's go to an extreme. If Kobe Bryant decided that instead of being one of the best basketball players that existed, he was going to be a general contractor, and he put the same level of work ethic in being a general contractor as he did in basketball, at the end of the day, he would still need to hire $15 an hour laborers to get the job done, right? And he would know that to deliver great quality work, he would have to be there constantly giving feedback, teaching, training, hiring. The turnover in that type of job is going to be higher. So there's always going to have to be constant training, constant presence. And even if it were Kobe, there would probably be times in his career where maybe he takes on too many jobs because he's trying to grow or make more money. And his own presence might not even meet his own expectation. And when that happens, the quality of work is going to dip. Right. So if he's not there to catch that quality of work dipping, or if you're not there on the job to catch that quality of work dipping, then that's going to be an issue. Now, If it's actually a GC with a work ethic of Kobe, the probability of you needing to be there is going to be low because, the GC is going to have this high standard and, so on and so forth. And maybe that's an indication of the type of GC that you want to eventually try to go find. Real quick, as you guys know, I just recently started this podcast. If you could give it a rating with a quick tap of the thumb, that would mean the world to me. And even more importantly, it could help spread the word to a broader audience, which in turn could help change a life. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the show. I use this as an extreme just to illustrate a point. And the people actually doing the work with their hands, they're usually $15, $20 an hour laborers. And the quality of work is going to be in direct correlation with the amount of supervision that they get, because the probability of there being a whole bunch of $15 to $20 hour laborers that know the expectation of quality that you want to deliver is going to be low. Now, I've hired a contractor before with really good intentions, and he, at least for what it's worth, seemed to have a really good heart. But he had so many crews and he had so many jobs going on at the same time that he was rarely on site. And we constantly had to babysit his crew for the job that we were on. And as a result, the quality of his work suffered. If we weren't there to babysit, the quality of work suffered. And in fact, that contractor has built a reputation in the investor community where he is for poor quality work. And now the biggest investors that I know in this area that could constantly feed him work, they won't work with him because the evidence has been there. He's proved to the community that the quality of work is lower. And I truly believe it's not because he's a bad contractor, or not because he doesn't know the expectation for good quality work. He's just spread too thin and he's not on site enough. And because he's not on site, he can't provide the proper communication, training, expectations, correction, etc. And so the cost for his attention being spread thin is really high for his business. And so one thing I think you can do up front, and you got to weigh this because the contractor can say whatever they want to say, but ask the contractor when you're going to hire them for a job, especially if it's a big job, how often do they plan on being on site? How many jobs do you have going on at the same time? Because if they say 15 and they're all really big jobs, well, regardless of how they answer that question, how often are you going to be on site? You know that they're not going to be physically able to be on site as much. And when they're there, you could ask, hey, are you just checking on the team and leaving? How many hours do you typically spend on the job? And these are all questions that can be helpful, and asking these questions even to the referrals, right? So you're going to go talk to people who have done similar jobs. Ask the referrals, like, hey, how often was the GC on site? How much did you have to babysit the quality of work? Those are important questions that can help be an indication of what you'll experience. Learning number 5, contractors I've hired are from referrals I trust, but there's a huge asterisk and a huge caveat to this. They must have done a job that is similar to the one that you're hiring them for, or else the referral means nothing. So for example, if you have a friend or somebody who's referred you, and this contractor did an amazing job on a kitchen remodel, and you're hiring for a full gut remodel, which I would define as, you're demoing all the plaster, all the drywall. You have all new HVAC, all new electrical, all new plumbing. You're putting up all new drywall. They're relaying subfloor, et cetera, et cetera. As well-intended as that referral is for the amazing kitchen that they did, that referral is irrelevant because the jobs are just so different. And the referral only has merit if it comes from someone who has hired that same contractor for an almost identical job. And that's, I think, really, really important to discuss. And even if the contractor was like, oh yeah, I used to flip houses 10 years ago, but recently they've been doing a bunch of kitchen and bath remodels. Their 10 years ago flipping houses experience is not as relevant. You need to talk to somebody recently that has hired that same contractor for a very similar job. And then that is the referral that has merit. Learning number 6, the best contractors have to make good money. Think about it. If they don't make good money, they're not going to be around for very long. And if they're the best of the best, they're going to be around for a while, which means they have to make good money to feed their families and do what it is they need to do, feed their business, right? And if they don't make good money, they're going to be extrinsically motivated to do, things here or there that may benefit them, but may not benefit you as much, which in the end is not going to work out well for you. And if you're in the beginning stages of your real estate career, or if you're a beginner and you've never flipped a house before, you're just getting started, as you're analyzing deals and you're figuring out which deal is going to be your first, you're going to prioritize buying your first deal over hiring the more expensive contractor, because the last thing that we want when we're first getting started, like, I remember every time that I lost out on a deal in the beginning, it felt like such a big deal because I didn't want to miss out and I wanted to get some experience under my belt. And it's just something that you need to be conscious of, because you can increase the probability you run into issues if you prioritize just buying your first deal over vetting and doing the homework that you need to do on your contractors. And so, side note on this, if you're a beginner, when you're first getting started, you have to double your effort in the referral part of hiring contractors, because one, your construction knowledge is the worst it's going to ever be because you're just getting started. And two, because you're going to be so eager and hungry, like I said, to get your first deal, the likelihood of you hiring someone because they're cheap is going to be higher. And sometimes the price of that contractor is going to make or break your deal, right? And if your referral process doesn't check out, you have to make sure that you're not making decisions based on emotion or a gut feel, or, oh, I talked to this person, they seem like they know what they're doing. And you can only make the decision on your gut feel or your emotion if you're comfortable with the probability of that situation working out being the equivalent of a coin flip, right? There's no gut feels when it comes to hiring someone for a big job like that. There's concrete data, concrete evidence that they have done that type of job before. And when you're first getting started, if you're hiring someone for a big job, you need to put in significant effort to go validate that all of the evidence, all of the concrete data that they have done that type of job before is there. Otherwise, there's just going to be increased inherent risk. Learning number 7, the amount of diligence that you do in a contractor should be in direct correlation to the scope of work on the job that you need done. So, for example, if you need some towel work in your bathroom, relatively low scope. All right. You could probably risk hiring someone that's a little bit more shady or a little bit less experienced, because worst case, you got to redo some towel work and you're out a little bit of money. If you're doing a full gut rehab, and you probably by now sense in my voice that I'm speaking from experience, but a full gut rehab, meaning that, again, you're demoing plaster down to the studs, you're redoing electrical, plumbing, HVAC, new drywall, everything is new. There has to be the highest amount of effort, significant effort, in vetting that contractor has done that exact job before, because that is not a job that you can just redo very easily. And there's going to be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake. And so the cost of hiring someone because you didn't do the proper due diligence is extremely high, and it's on a sliding scale the more complex the scope of work is. Learning number 8, if you do happen to get yourself in a bad spot with a contractor, your ability to collect from that contractor, if they have money that they shouldn't, and or at least that's what you believe and you want that money back, your ability to collect is only going to be as good as their ability to make money. And again, like we've already talked about, if they're a bad contractor, they probably have not proven their ability to make money yet. So unless you have some sort of blatant fraud from the contractor, which in court pierces the corporate veil and you can go after them personally, not just the business, you're going to need to make a decision as to how you want to spend your attention. Because here are your choices. You have 2 choices. Choice number 1 is you focus 100% of your attention on making more money to make up for the loss that you just had. Or choice number 2 is you divert some of that attention to try to recover the money that you just lost. And what I've learned is that even if it's a significant amount of money, your attention is likely better focused on, your attention is likely better focusing 100% of it on just trying to make more money. Because at the end of the day, this game doesn't care about your sob story or why they screwed you or whose fault it is or how bad someone screwed you. To get better at this game, you just have to keep playing. And to keep playing, you have to take the lessons, you have to learn the lessons, and you have to do better next time. And a lot of times, the way that we do that is we just focus on, okay, how can I take that learning? How can I make sure that it doesn't happen again? Let me go focus my time and attention on making more money so that I can keep playing the game. But ruminating over a previous situation doesn't help you do better next time. And many times it actually prevents you from getting better. Learning number 9, and this is the last learning. The best contractors I've worked with have similar visions and values to me. And I wasn't intentional about seeking that out in the beginning, but I've noticed that it just seems to always be a common denominator. And so, for example, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a time when I thought I had a really good contractor, and we got to know each other really well. And I remember talking to him one time. We were at dinner about how much he hated his father. And this is going to sound weird, but the story wasn't like, my dad beat the crap out of my mom and I. He cheated on my mom a ton of times. He's still out there cheating on all of his current, relationships, and he's just an absolute terrible human. Therefore, I'll never talk to him again. I remember pretty vividly when he was telling me the story about how him and his father, never talk. I didn't really understand, right? What he was telling me didn't connect the dots that his father had terrible character, for example. And I remember being so confused that I even asked him, like, hey, do you think that if you go the next 30 years, never talk to your dad, he dies, you're on your deathbed, do you think, like, will you regret not having rekindled the relationship, not having tried to talk to him? And literally without hesitation, he didn't even think twice about this. He looked me straight in the eyes and he said, no, absolutely not. And I remember feeling like, I don't know, really surprised, almost uncomfortable, confused, because there was nothing he told me that made me question his father's character. It just seemed as though they had a disagreement, right? They disagreed on something, and it came across to me as really vindictive. Now, what is actually the truth? I have no idea. I just remember feeling that way in the movement. What he described when he was describing the situation, what he described just came across as he was being more vindictive than something that actually provided utility to his life. And, he didn't even say like, yeah, maybe I would feel some remorse. I don't know. It's something that I'm struggling with. Right. He just very quickly, without hesitation, looked me straight in the eyes. Like, nope, no remorse at all. And, looking back at my relationship with that contractor showed me signs repeatedly that maybe the contractor was the one that had some character deficiencies, that may not have had the same or similar values as the values that I like to espouse. And that example at dinner, when he was telling the story about his father, was just one example of our values seeming to be very misaligned. And that turned out to be one of the worst contractors that I've ever worked with. And so, maybe it shouldn't surprise me, because all of my best friends, my best relationships, my wife, I have all of those people in my life because we share similar vision, we share similar values, and there has seemingly been a correlation between the commonality of vision and values and how good a contractor has been. And so something you could consider to turn that into something actionable is asking the referrals, right? Again, go check your referrals of the contractors that you might be working with and ask them like, hey, what did it seem like their values were? Like, what were the things that they valued based on your experience with them? And if there's some misalignment there and you talk to several and the misalignment seems congruent or across the board, then I think that increases the probability the contractor is not going to be a good fit for you. So I thought that was kind of a good one to end on there. But those are some of my learnings so far. I hope that was helpful. I've been through a lot of challenging situations with contractors, probably as you can tell, and I wanted to put all of those learnings together And hopefully that helps you prevent from getting into a bad situation with a contractor. So I hope those learnings have been helpful. Those are the learnings I have for now. Maybe as I progress in my career, I'll have more contractor learnings, and I'll share them with you when they come up. But for now, that's it. Really appreciate your time and attention. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.